This video is all about creation, and if you're looking to create an amazing website, then Squarespace is for you. Stick around to the end of the video to see a special offer they're making available through my channel. There's a scene in Blade Runner 2049 where we meet a woman in a big, round, empty room. She sits there with this strange device in her hand that can conjure up pretty much anything. A birthday cake, candles, lighting, the people in the room, the table the cake sits on, the sound everything makes. She can rotate the cake, the scene, change the facial expressions of those present. She can sequence every moment of that scene, have it play out exactly as she wants it to. Whatever she wants to create, whatever minute detail she wants to manipulate, she can do it. And she can do it very quickly. 2 years ago, a device like this seemed like straight up science fiction. It feels a hell of a lot less science fiction in 2020 because now this device kind of exists and it's called Dreams. Okay, so obviously I'm exaggerating, but not by much. Dreams can absolutely do pretty much everything that weird little memory thing can do that lady's holding. You can create entire worlds down to the tiniest detail, create the characters that populate them, animate those characters, give them sound, give them logic, light them, frame scenes, and have them play out exactly as you'd want them to. And all of this is possible using nothing more than a PS4 controller. It is absolutely mind-blowing what you are capable of doing with these tools. Like, mind-blowing. So I want to pause here and set up this video properly because I'm going to say a lot of very positive things about Dreams, and I'm going to tell you why I think it is absolutely a revolutionary piece of software, and I do believe it will have a transformative impact on video games in the short and long term. But I don't want you to think that everything I'm going to say is kind of building up to this recommendation where it's like, you must buy Dreams, because the truth is you probably shouldn't buy Dreams. Dreams is not really for like 95% of people. It's not really for me, for example, since I'm not a creative person and the library of user-generated content that currently exists is actually pretty limited. So far, there's nothing I've encountered in Dreams that I'd want to play for any more than about 15 or 20 minutes. But for the 5% of people that this is for, this is remarkable. And those 5% of people are going to do things with this that will absolutely affect you and me and everyone. If you're like me and you don't have a creative bone in your body, then just sit back and let that 5% of people work. Let them do their thing. And I promise you, in a very short amount of time, they will have made a bunch of stuff that you can't help but pay attention to. I honestly cannot believe that Dreams exists in the way that it does. Like, it's crazy. Anyway, let me explain it to you. So what is Dreams? Well, to put it in the simplest possible terms, Dreams lets you make games and play the games that other people have made. That's essentially it. It's the most basic explanation. You might think, well, big deal, that's not new, and you'd be right. Dreams is not the first piece of software designed to let people make games. There have been quite a few of these, in fact. Game Maker traces its history back to 1999, and it looked like this. RPG Maker predates even that, going right back to 1992, and it looked like this. Lots of new editions of these programs and others have surfaced over the years, but they've kind of been in decline since they don't seem to have really advanced. I mean, this is footage of RPG Maker MV released in 2015, and this isn't exactly setting the world on fire. The closest comparable tool to Dreams was Microsoft's now defunct Project Spark. This was revealed at the same time as the Xbox One and was much hyped, but it suffered from a fairly limited toolset and some unintuitive UI. Worse, you couldn't make new assets in Project Spark, and the business model sold assets just like regular games engines do, so you had to fork out money if you wanted to get access to all of the things. The game tried to revive itself with a cynical cash-in on the Conkers franchise, and Linkin Park released an actual official music video built entirely in Project Spark, which kind of made Project Spark look worse, not better. Project Spark gave away all its DLC content for free in 2015 as a last gasp, desperate move to survive before the game was eventually shuttered in 2016. Based on this track record, it's logical to think that there probably just isn't demand for, game creation tools, but I think that couldn't be further from the truth. Video games have always had a deep vein of user-created creativity coursing through them, powering them, and sometimes that's bubbled up into the mainstream, like the way the mod scene created Counter-Strike, or the custom map scene in Warcraft leading to Dota and other games. And then there's the really big stuff like Minecraft, which to this day is amongst the most played and most watched games in the world. Even Super Mario Maker's limited toolset shows just how much people love creating things. People want to make levels, they want to make game modes, they want to make entire games. They just need the right tools to do it. For the better part of a decade now, Media Molecule, the team behind Little Big Planet, have been working on Dreams. Creative director Mark Healy explains the genesis of the project in an interview with IGN. When I first got into making computer games, it was home computers. And the thing about those is they had a keyboard on them and you could make stuff on them, you know? Then the consoles came along and great, but how do you make something for this? Oh, you have to go and spend a lot of money on a dev kit or something, which I thought is, you know, not cool. So it's been a lifelong mission to make sure that consoles come ready to make stuff for them. So empowering people that maybe didn't have the opportunity to go to university or anything like that, that's the thing close to my heart. So it's just a life's work, I guess, like no big deal, right? In the same IGN interview, this guy also says, "At no point have we released Dreams to the community and said, I hope this works. We know it works. We spent a long time using it." It's a pretty rare statement in the world of AAA games development, but I tell you what, he's not even close to being wrong. This thing absolutely works. But before I showcase exactly how it works, let's talk about the thing that you're probably most interested in, which is playing actual games. So remember at the start when I'm like, Dreams lets you make and play games. Well, that's true, but that's not the full picture. Since you can create so much in Dreams, they've opened up some broad categories of content. Games is obviously the biggest one, and you'll find plenty of those, but there's also scenes or showcases, which are kind of visual demonstrations of what Dreams is capable of. Like, look at this one. So that's pretty impressive, right? Now that's not a game, it's just a visual showcase, but it could be a game in future if the person who made it or someone else decides to carry it forward and make a game with it. Right now it's just a showcase of what you can create in Dreams if you want to. There's also music as well, which you can create in Dreams. You can actually create music from scratch in Dreams and sound effects and all that sort of stuff. So there's lots of different things you can create in Dreams. But let's talk about the games and how you will play them if you choose to. The place to start is at the very top here, Art's Dream. It's a movie-length experience made by Media Molecule that showcases the power of Dreams. It runs for a few hours and it has a bunch of different styles baked into it, like cinematic point and click or 3D platforming. You kind of play it and think, hey, this is pretty cool. But you kind of need to remind yourself that this entire thing was created in Dreams using nothing more than a PS4 controller. And when you remind yourself of that, you can't but be stunned at what these tools are capable of. This is just the beginning though. In the Pick Up and Play playlist, you can find the best, most polished community-made creations, and you can find some seriously impressive stuff in there. Now, as much as I was enjoying these, I'll be very clear that none of them kept me really wanting to continue to play them. They were impressive tech demos, they were funny, but none of them had a hook that would keep me wanting to play just 5 more minutes. Then I headed down into the community jam winners and I found this. The Pilgrim isn't the most impressive game to look at, but it's the one out of everything that I played that hung together the best. It had a cohesive visual style, it had presence, it created a sense of awe as its vistas and skyboxes opened up, it had abilities that I unlocked. At one point it converted to a bullet hell game. The whole thing was just very solid. It was a really enjoyable 20-minute long game, and if you gave this team of creators more time, I'm certain that they could make something that I would happily pay $20 for, unlike Nintendo Switch or whatever. You can just feel their talent oozing from this thing, and this was the game above all others that really opened my eyes to show me just how much was possible from community creations with a platform like this. And just as I came to this realization, I fell into the new and trending filter. If you're so inclined, it's possible to spend an eternity plumbing the depths of dreams. More like nightmares than dreams, to be fair. There's just so much garbage here, and it's funny, and it's a cheap laugh, and then you move on to the next one. It's like browsing YouTube and just clicking on random cringe montages. You do it, and then you move on. If you had to buy a $300 PS4 to watch cringe montages, would you do it? No, you wouldn't. It's the same here with dreams. This stuff isn't going to be what keeps you coming back to the game, but it's a nice bit of levity to just kind of, you know, keep things interesting. But even then, there's a question I'm sure many of you are asking right now, and it's, should I buy Dreams if I have the intention of just playing user-created content? And I would say, no, not yet. I've spent over a dozen hours surfing the Dreamscape, and I've only found one game where I was like, man, I want to play more of this. One of the most impressive games on display was this adorable Godzilla sim called Ruckus, because the environments, the controls, the destruction, the freaking lasers, it was fantastic. But I played it for a few minutes and then I was done. That's what almost all the Dreams are currently like now. So I can't recommend Dreams to you as a purchase if you're looking for meaty games to sink your teeth into. Those games are coming though. Mark my words, make no mistake. Those games are on the way. As this community gets up and running and the library of assets increases rapidly, absolutely, you will start seeing those fantastic games in the future. Like 6 to 12 months time from now, if you ask me that same question, I probably have a completely different answer. And all that comes down to not only the creation tools that Media Molecule have built, but the way they've connected the community to make what has to be the fastest growing asset database on the planet, which just so happens to be entirely free. You might look at Dreams and think there is no way in hell I'm ever going to give dream shaping a try. I have no experience with this stuff and it's probably going to be really hard, so no thank you. The first thing you should know is that Dreams is designed with precisely you in mind. It knows that people who are already experienced game makers probably won't use Dreams, so it's not designed for them. It's designed for people who have never, ever done anything like this. People like me. I actually planned to not really use any of the content creation tools in Dreams because I thought I'd get enough value out of the product by just playing other people's creations, but Dreams has this really clever way of slowly pulling you in bit by bit until you find yourself doing one of the dozens of tutorials or taking apart a scene that someone else has created just so you can see what makes it tick. Dreams has these compulsory tutorials baked into the core experience that happen as you mess around with more of the game, and these teach you the fundamentals of camera control, creating assets, moving or resizing things and more, and from there the optional tutorials will teach you pretty much anything you want to learn, from environment design to audio creation to sculpting to animation. It's a veritable game design academy right here in the tutorials menu, and it's all so clear that absolutely anybody could follow along with it, myself included. The tools themselves were the most mind-blowing part of the entire experience. As impressive as it is to see other people's creations, seeing the toolset that powered them was honestly humbling. It took a decade to make this, and you can feel that. The ability to drop in a sky, to create light, landscapes, to create AI, even the simplicity of making a doorway with a sound effect. The greatest intelligence is simplicity, and while these tools aren't exactly simple, you can tell how much genius it took to get to the point where this level of creation was possible with nothing but a PlayStation controller. All of this stuff is leagues better than any other consumer level tool that's come before it, but the real power of Dreams lays in its collaborative framework. If a creator tags their creation as public, then you can enter edit mode and immediately start playing around with their creation. Someone else made this thing, but with a press of a button, it's now your scene to do with whatever you please. Furthermore, these public creations are saved and uploaded to a cloud-hosted database. At that point, that asset is immediately accessible by anyone and they can copy it into their own creations. So here, I'm in this Batman scene and I thought, hey, let's take this Batman and play around with it. So I saved a copy of it and imported it into my very sophisticated scene called Bathroom, and then I dropped in my Bortman, and then a few more, and then a few more, and then I took control of him, and for some reason this happened. Now, I don't know why the Bortmen felt the need to kill each other, but I was secretly really glad that it happened. This is the most important thing to understand about Dreams. This is why it's so revolutionary. You're talking about the most sophisticated game creation tool that's ever been given to consumers, powered by an ever-expanding library of totally free assets that are immediately accessible to anyone and everyone. So if you want to make a Star Wars game, you can just search Mos Eisley, Mandalorian, Baby Yoda, etc., and just smash them together in a few minutes. You already have the basics of a scene here, and from then on you can do whatever you like. Now, some have asked, what is the point of this? Who is this for? If people wanted to make a game, why don't they just learn Unity or Unreal or whatever and just make it properly? It's a fair question, but I think it comes from a misunderstanding of what these different tools are trying to accomplish. Real game design engines and platforms like Unity and Unreal are certainly the most accessible professional game dev tools on the market today, but even they have huge learning curves associated with them. It takes months and years to become proficient with these tools. The trade-off is that you can obviously accomplish far more with them, but even then, things such as animation and sound are usually done outside these tools and then kind of imported in. Plus, you have to buy the assets if you aren't willing to create everything from scratch. Dreams is an end-to-end game creation platform that isn't aiming to create the next God of War, it's aiming to create the next indie darling, and it can absolutely do that. Every year I go to PAX and I always spend a lot of time at the indie showcase because you get to see heaps of new ideas, you get to meet the devs and talk to them face to face, etc. A lot of those games are just short, silly, fun games that are meant to be 10 or 15 bucks worth of enjoyment. A lot of what I've seen at those indie showcases can now be made in Dreams. Just think of what that means for games development when the basics of complete playable games can be made using a consumer level tool that costs almost nothing. I think we have to keep our eyes firmly on the horizon when it comes to Dreams. This is version 1.0 of a piece of software that's taken nearly a decade to make. In the near future, Media Molecule have said that they will add online multiplayer functionality. So games like Fall Guys from Devolver Digital, which is a 100-person Takeshi's Castle kind of game, you could make this in Dreams and you could make it pretty damn fast. Media Molecule has also said that they plan to add VR support very soon. Think about that. Right now, VR development is so limited because the business case is generally weak. Interest is fairly low and the install base isn't high. It's hard to get development dollars for VR projects. When this happens overnight, you're going to have thousands and thousands of new VR developers immediately entering the market, prototyping new ideas thanks to Dreams. Toyota is built on a management philosophy which eventually came to be known as Lean. It's about a lot of different things, but one of the principles enabling it is something called rapid prototyping. It's the idea that you quickly create and implement things to see how they work or how they feel. User testing is the most important part of product development, so rather than spend all your time in design workshops trying to create something perfect, you create a minimum viable offering and then you get it out the door and test it and then refine it based upon the feedback your users give you. Ironically, this is pretty much the exact opposite model used in games development. Studios will spend 3, 4, 5 years working on an idea with almost no end user testing, and when it completely blows up at launch, they saddle up to do the exact same thing again for the next release. This is AAA games development in a nutshell. Indie devs are doing better with this. They embrace the early access model, which has had its issues in the past, but it's finding its rhythm as a tried and tested means of ensuring that your game isn't a catastrophe when it launches. Dreams represents the most sophisticated games incubation, rapid prototyping, and early access tool we have ever seen in the history of the medium. And it feels like video games were pretty much the last medium to arrive at this point. For example, the iPhone. It's 13 years old now. Before then, we used to buy separate cameras and carry them around with us. Think of what the iPhone has done for photography. Instagram is 10 years old. Think of what that platform has done for like so many things, and all of it's powered by the fact that we can just take photos on our phones now. YouTube is 15 years old. When I started YouTube 5 years ago, video editing was like this impenetrable, esoteric, technical science, huge barriers to entry. It all seems so daunting. Now there are hundreds of apps that let you create and edit high quality videos on your phone. And what's that led to? TikTok, now 3 years old. Music. You want to be a star? Cool. Before, you had to play gigs, cut an LP, get a manager, hustle, and hope you get noticed and signed. Now what do? You can buy professional quality mics for $100 or $200 and some basic editing software you can download off the internet. That'll create pretty close to studio quality sound. You upload it to Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube, and away you go. Dozens and dozens of major careers have been built in this exact way. All of these transformative social media driven platforms are about decentralization of art forms, about breaking down the technical barriers that once existed so that anyone can create, and then providing a platform that is accessible to anyone and everyone so that these creations can be discovered and amplified. Like YouTube, Dreams has search, it has content tagging, it has algorithms to give you stuff that's relevant to you, it has like ratios, so the good stuff is surfaced more, or at least the popular stuff. This whole social media amplification framework exists on top of the most complete game creation tools we've ever seen. This is the first time video games has ever had anything like this. The last thing I think about when I think Dreams is the decentralization of IP. So just bear with me on this one. Right now, the only people who can make Nintendo games are Nintendo. Now I know there's like the mod scene and they do their thing, but for real, like how many times have you downloaded the base program and the mods and configured it all and done all the shit? Like you don't do that, I don't do that, most people don't do that, it's a pain in the ass. We see these cool mods on YouTube and we're like, hey, I'm not gonna bother to do that, okay? That's generally the way it works. This is a Mario game in Dreams called Super Mario Infinity. That is an astounding proof of concept. The controls don't feel quite as good as Nintendo's, but they're like 95% the way there. You've got a functional Mario now out in the public space that anyone can pick up and drop him into any other creation. All it would take now is for someone or a group of people to work together for a couple of weeks or months and they could build an entirely new Mario game, and when they're done we can just log in and play it for free if we own Dreams. That's a really big deal, and I think that's going to raise some pretty loud alarm bells at Nintendo, at Disney, at everywhere that owns IP. This is a very powerful, very flexible, completely open source, social media driven ecosystem that is going to test copyright law like we've never seen before. I mean, YouTube to this day still has not got copyright down. I mean, my Nier Automata video has been claimed by Square Enix because I used Nier Automata music in the review of the Nier Automata game, right? If not even YouTube can get this right, then what hope does Dreams have of sorting this out? A little media molecule are gonna fight Nintendo in court? I don't think so. There's just no way that Dreams can exist like this forever. As creations become more sophisticated, more elaborate, there's no way that Nintendo isn't gonna be like sliding into Media Molecule's DMs and being like, hey, nice game you've got there. It would be a shame if something happened to it. And this problem is only going to become more pertinent if Media Molecule's dreams for dreams come true. Yes, I did say dreams for dreams. Quote, I mean, the big ambition I had for it really is that people can use it to make games that they sell on the PSN store or whatever and use it as a genuine professional development tool. That's the thing I would really like to see. I said earlier that I think it's important to keep our eyes fixed on the horizon when it comes to Dreams, but I didn't talk about how far that horizon stretches. This game is all but certain to be released on the PS5, where a number of the current technical limitations built into the design tool will be relaxed, allowing people to create even more elaborate creations. The tool already has a full front-end interface for PC, allowing you to browse creations and save them for viewing on your PS4. The next logical step is for this tool to be released on PC, and I think that's pretty much inevitable. After that, a storefront allowing people to sell their creations. Right now, there are monthly community jams that focus people's creativity on certain topics or themes. We're already seeing new YouTube channels and Twitch influencers pop up who specialize in both making and showcasing content. We will absolutely see game design courses start to use this as a prototyping framework, and I would not be at all surprised if we saw this sort of thing in school curriculums. If I had a kid, I would love nothing more than to hand them Dreams at age 6 or 8 and say, go for your life, and just see what they could learn about sound and music and, you know, scene design, cinematography, animation, sculpting. Like, just imagine what a kid's brain could do with these sort of tools and how like quickly they would soak this shit up, man. Crazy. It honestly is astounding, and I can't believe the scale of Media Molecule's achievement here. Dreams feels like a genuine gift to video games, and in an era where it seems like so much of this medium, this hobby, is being taken away from us through monetization or bloated AAA development garbage or DRM or crappy end-user license agreements, discovering something so enlarging is a rare and welcome surprise. So there was a block in this video where I talked about how new technologies have made it much easier to create stuff, and I think the perfect example of that is something like Squarespace. Back in the day, you need to have like a web domain manager and web developer and a whole team of people just to build a basic website, and they're the only ones that could do it, the only ones that could maintain it, cost thousands and thousands of dollars, etc. Now, with tools like Squarespace, you can just create your own website in minutes, update it entirely yourself, and it costs almost nothing. Squarespace offer the best, most complete website creation tools you'll find anywhere on the internet, allowing you to make professional looking websites in mere minutes. You simply choose a template, make it your own, and then you're up and running. There's even advanced tools like SEO, increasing the chances that you'll be found on the internet. There's stuff like analytics, so you know how many people are visiting your site and what they're clicking on. And they even have e-commerce options, so you can run your own business through the website, selling stuff online. Easy. To get started, visit squarespace.com, sign up, start designing your own site, and when you're ready to get serious, visit squarespace.com/skillup for 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Thank you very much, Squarespace, for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down so I know to do better for next time. If you enjoyed yourself, consider subscribing, and if you really enjoyed yourself, maybe consider hitting that notification bell so you never miss a video. You can see my patrons here on the left. They're awesome. They're amazing. If you want to join them, check out my Patreon page. Thank you again. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.